Ground cover plants have so many uses in both large and small-scale landscape gardens. Groundswell Hibbertia, a dense ground cover, is a more compact and tidier form of this popular coastal plant. Like the common form, it is very drought tolerant, resilient against heat and humidity, handles full sun to part shade, and is salt tolerant, thriving in sandy soils, the coast, and even salt-laden windy foredunes. Groundswell Hibbertia is a vast improvement over the common form, which generally only tolerates light frost. It tends to be moderately frost tolerant, having been selected for its winter capabilities as well as its summer toughness. The common form has been very popular in New South Wales and Queensland and is often used in Perth, but with the added cold abilities, it can now be reliably used in the southern states. Groundswell Hibbertia's less rambling, more compact and tidy nature makes it less likely to smother other plants, making it easier to maintain. Unlike the common form, which can be a climber or ground cover and whose stems can reach up to 5 metres, Groundswell Hibbertia is more compact. Stems in trials reached only 1 metre after 5 years, with an overall spread of 2 metres and a height of 45 centimetres, and with most of the foliage tending to be around 30 centimetres tall as it spreads. This is very compact considering that the common form often gets up to 2 to 3 metres tall, particularly if it has something to climb on, and can spread up to 5 metres wide. If a climbing form is required, straight up Hibbertia, the climbing purpurea form, is recommended as Groundswell Hibbertia is a poor performing climber. For dune stabilisation, straight up Hibbertia is a better choice, as it rambles quickly and roots out into the sand more quickly, providing fast erosion control. Groundswell Hibbertia also spreads more uniformly around the centre, making it more like a traditional tidy landscape ground cover plant compared to the rambling common form. In Australia, the common form has been regularly used on roundabouts and roadsides and other large landscape areas as a ground cover. However, as some forms tend to be more upright like a climber, and others behave like a ground cover, the result is often an untidy landscape of many varied heights. Groundswell Hibbertia is a specialist ground cover, being uniform in size, making a far tidier looking landscape. Groundswell Hibbertia may be a ground cover form, but it can be trained as a climber. However, compared to straight up Hibbertia, which has a true climbing form, it is a poor choice as a climber. Scandens, the species name in Latin, means climbing, so finding a true ground cover will be advantageous for the landscape industry. Groundswell Hibbertia is suitable for low maintenance gardens, courtyards, roadsides, containers, cottage gardens, erosion control, coastal landscapes including foredunes, embankments and mass planting. It is less rambling, thus path and roadside maintenance is reduced, as far less edging is required. In testing at Richmond, New South Wales, it had darker green foliage all year compared to other types, with cold tolerance not being its only improvement. In heavy clay soils, it survived 4 floods before dying after the 5th of 6 floods over the last 3 years, whilst the others in the trial died after the 2nd flood. These unusual flood events highlighted its improved ability to tolerate periodic flooding and wet feet, as well as a wider array of soil types. However, it is not recommended for regularly wet soils. The common form prefers sandy soils, so being able to handle heavier soils in the trial is a bonus. Flowering like other forms, namely sporadically through the year, but more often in the warmer months, the bright yellow flowers highlight beautifully against the darker green foliage of this standout landscape plant. The flowers and foliage attract bees, butterflies and lizards. Straight up Hibbertia is a specialist climbing or shrub-like form of Hibbertia scandens. During winter, it often has purple foliage through its leaves, vastly setting it apart from other forms of this popular coastal plant. The common form can be a ground cover or climber, so using the common types is like a lucky dip. You never know what you're going to get. If a climbing form or rambling dune stabiliser of Hibbertia scandens is required, use straight up Hibbertia, but if a ground cover is needed, use Groundswell Hibbertia. Although straight up Hibbertia is a climber, it still has a dense, slightly more compact form, reaching with support up to an estimated 2.5 metres tall. Knowing its true form makes it much easier to use this plant correctly. Although it is best planted with some support such as a trellis, fence or stakes, it can be pruned each year or two to form a small shrub or left unpruned as a rambling dune erosion control plant. The cleaner leaves and its winter purple foliage tones make this a much more ornamental form compared to the common type. It is very drought tolerant, resilient against heat and humidity, handles full sun to part shade, and is salt tolerant, thriving in sandy soils, the coast and even salt-laden windy foredunes. Unlike the common form, which only handles light frost, this copes better with more moderate frosts, performing well in winter trials in Richmond, New South Wales. It also survived 5 devastating floods in heavy soil that wiped out many other Hibbertia scandens that were in the trial. This indicates that it can better handle periodic wet feet and heavier soils compared to the common form. With many climbing landscape uses when pruned, when left alone, this plant shines as a rambling dune stabiliser. Its rapid wider spread and its ability to root out when covered with sand help ensure excellent erosion control. Without support, it is easy to control as it is more upright in growth and basically sustains itself as a small shrub if pruned yearly. If you could support it to give your cottage or native garden a taller focal point, it blends in with its gorgeous yellow flowers and majestic foliage, all whilst being low maintenance. The stems can be trained if desired to form all types of shapes, including covering a wall or fence as a climber. During summer, it has dark green tone foliage, and then in winter, in colder climates such as Richmond, New South Wales, where it was tested, its purple foliage tones showed through most winters and early springs during the trial. It's one hardy plant. Straight Up Hibbertia went through 5 floods and handled the heat of summer 2019, which was remembered for the bad bushfire season. We just happened to plant our trial on a slight slope on heavy soil just above the bottom of the floodplain. We had 6 floods in just over 3 years and it coped with 5 of them. Used together, these 2 natives have many potential uses. A designer's flair is a must. We're looking forward to creating some interesting landscapes utilising the combination of the contrasting extremes of these 2 plants. We plan to make gardens where we use these 2 plants in various combinations, the ground cover in front and the climber behind as a backdrop. The backdrop, Straight Up Hibbertia, could be used as a specimen at 1 metre intervals to give height contrast amongst a larger garden, or just part of a cottage garden more randomly, or as a climber near a wall or fence. If Groundswell Hibbertia is planted not too densely at 1 per square metre, you can cut a few stems off it and interplant other plants such as native grasses, little ruby alternanthera, sea urchin aloe, kangaroo paw, Tunica lamandra or Tasred dianella. The designer can even go further by using their skills to create combinations of spacings and plants. We also want to work out the optimum planting space for the ground cover and the climber. Our best guess is that the landscape will need 1 to 2 ground cover plants per square metre, depending on the desired look, and 3 to 4 plants per linear metre against the wall. We are going to use them also as specimen plants in our garden. Groundswell Hibbertia will be used as a mass planting trial at spacings of 1 per square metre, 2 per square metre and 4 per square metre. The 4 per square metre may work well for weed suppression and erosion control.